News Now is brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. From the Pacific News Center in Hagåtña, Guam, here's Clint Ridgell and Janella Carrera with Betsy Brown and Roselle Romanes. PNC Sports with Blake Watson. And weather with Joanna O. With your news now.
Hafadan, good evening. You're watching PNC's News Now. We're broadcasting live in Guam and in Saipan. I'm Janella Carrera.
And I'm Clint Ridgell. Top of your news tonight, some breaking news. Remember the report of 3 young women who were killed in an auto pedestrian accident back in November? Well, according to the Attorney General's office, they know who did it. Quadlin Lane Gorong was indicted today on charges of 3 counts of manslaughter, 3 counts negligent homicide, reckless driving, and reckless conduct. All but the manslaughter charges were attached with special allegations of use of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony. Gorong is believed to be the driver of that vehicle that struck 16-year-old Sally Santos, 16-year-old Julia George, and 19-year-old Cherika Gallen in the Zero Down area of Jigo. Their deaths shocked the community and prompted Micronesian youth groups to call for justice for the 3 young women. This is a developing story. We'll be posting more updates on our website at pacificnewscenter.com as more information becomes available.
More shocking news in the Bank of Guam robbery. The only person to go to trial out of the 3 new defendants in the case was just found not guilty. After less than 2 hours of deliberations, Edward Baza was acquitted by a jury of 12. Baza was facing charges related to the 2014 Jigo Bank of Guam robbery after his co-defendant Irvin Munoz White implicated him in the case. Now White, along with his father Jackery White, will be serving time for the crime. They confessed. In fact, it was a voluntary confession. Irvin was already in custody for the days in robbery at the time. And what makes this case so interesting is that there's also another person in prison for the armed robbery. Jathan Tatautau also confessed to the robbery last year, and the people he implicated were also found not guilty last year. Irvin claims Tatautau had nothing to do with it, so at this point it's possible that Tatautau may have his case overturned. Baza's defense attorney J. Robert Mortland told PNC that he's extremely satisfied with the jury's decision, adding that when the verdict was reached, Baza broke down in tears. Quote, "Just because you're accused of a crime doesn't mean you did it," Mortland said. He noted that the only link between Irvin and Baza was that the two had worked together in the past. Mortland also contends that, quote, "There is more to this story than we were shown."
Class for Tizen High School students was disrupted on Tuesday for a school-wide search because of a report of contraband in the school. Airport Police Chief Bob Camacho says officers responded to a call at Tizen High School at about 12:45 Tuesday afternoon on a tip that a student brought marijuana to school. When they arrived at the campus, Camacho says staff members informed the officers that they also found a pellet gun. Chief Camacho says after a 30-minute search, the officers confiscated 2 marijuana cigarettes from a student. The student was taken into custody and later released to parents. Department of Education Deputy Superintendent Rob Millay says after further investigation, administrators took the appropriate administrative action on 4 students associated with the incident. A source tells us that the school did not sound any lockdown bell for precaution, and teachers were not told what the search was for.
Solid Waste Federal Receivers Gershman, Brickner, and Bratton believe the Calvo administration is deliberately withholding information in an effort to protect the governor from public scrutiny. This is in response to tax credits that were paid out to the original landowners of the Luzon landfill.
Why do you think they're refusing to provide this information?
Well, the only thing I can conclude is that they really want to shield the governor. Didn't want the public to understand, I suppose, the amount of money being paid by the government of Guam to the governor's family business. It is a large sum of money.
The compensation is for the condemnation of property that is now being used as a landfill. After years of dispute, in 2012, the Superior Court ruled in the landowner's favor and ordered a payment of $28 million plus interest. In 2014, the government agreed to use tax credits as compensation. GBB Principal Associate David Manning believes, as the federal receiver, GBB is entitled to details of that agreement, but he says the governor's office has refused to give it up.
We got information from both the office of the governor at an aggregate level, and for some reason the office of the governor even declined to tell us what percentage of the property each party owned. Mm-hmm. But that was a matter of public record already in the...
The governor's office contends that this information is private and protected by federal privacy laws. Manning says that may very well be the case, but he's not asking for sensitive information, such as tax documents. So because not much was provided to GBB, Manning said they could only deduce the details of the settlement in at least 2 scenarios. 2 of the 9 former landowners, Al Israel and Oxford Properties, were left out because of reports that they don't want tax credits for compensation. Based on $10.9 million in credits that was approved, in the first scenario, the governor's office would give the bulk of it to the 6 remaining landowners before paying Calvo's insurance underwriters.
If they chose to do the opposite thing, which would be the other extreme, they would compensate fully the Calvo Insurance Company, mm-hmm. and the balance of it would be spread among the remaining owners.
The first scenario, or Scenario A, has $5.7 million paid out to the Calvo family. Scenario B is at $8.3 million.
Could there be other scenarios as well?
Sure, it could be somewhere in the middle of mm-hmm. any of those.
Governor's legal counsel Sandra Miller told PNC that the district court had given them until March 19th to respond. She says the receiver's concerns will be addressed.
In related news, the governor's office lost an appeal up at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals over decisions made by Guam District Court Judge Francis Tidinko Gatewood. Solid waste federal receivers Gershman, Brickner, and Bratton call this a victory as it now allows that case to move forward without any more delays. Dissatisfied with Gatewood's decision and initial refusal to allow the governor's office to replace the Attorney General's office as legal counsel with Attorney Roland Mantegna, the Calvo administration then took the case up to the Ninth Circuit. In its decision, the Ninth Circuit called Gov Guam's arguments, quote, very weak, both factually and legally, and said they cannot be addressed because they lack jurisdiction. Part of the problem, the dismissal says, is that the government's appeal is not over legal counsel of their choosing because that matter had been addressed. Gatewood eventually allowed for substitution of counsel, citing a breakdown of communication. It's the fact that Gov Guam was asking the Ninth Circuit to render void all of Gatewood's other decisions during that 5-month period that the government was fighting for new counsel. Accordingly, the Ninth Circuit says this court may not review the orders Guam seeks to void because appeals from those orders are not before us. You can read the Ninth Circuit's decision online at PacificNewsCenter.com.
Many of the island's restaurants and grocery stores ran out of lettuce and other produce when the Matson ship scheduled to arrive last week did not come in. But at Java Junction in Agana, that wasn't the case. The coffee shop regularly orders lettuce, alfalfa sprouts, cucumbers, and eggs from local farmers. General Manager John Ray Titano says he saw the value in buying local this week because they didn't run out of items when other businesses did.
A lot of people came over to us because we had an abundance of lettuce. You know, you couldn't get a salad somewhere else, so they came to us because we had it available. You know, it opened our eyes to, see that maybe we should buy a lot more stuff locally, and more people should try to make more stuff locally, just so we don't have as much of a dependence on everyone else.
Java Junction is also recognizing Mes Chamorro by posing questions about Chamorro culture to their customers. Later in the program, PNC's Betsy Brown will tell you about today's debate, which was over the spelling of the word Chamorro.
Senator Roy Respicio says his bill to demolish the Manuel F.L. Guerrero DOA building needs a lot more work after hearing testimony during a public hearing 2 days ago. Here's more. After holding a public hearing on a bill to demolish the Manuel F.L. Guerrero DOA building in Hagåtña, Senator Roy Respicio sent out a press release today stating that he's still determined to honor Guam's history while resolving problems with this building. DPW says the building has serious structural, electrical, and mechanical issues. Guam EPA says the building has serious environmental hazards. However, Respicio's committee also received testimony on the building's historic role in the island's self-rule. The building is named after the island's second Chamorro governor, Manuel F.L. Guerrero. Guerrero is known for laying down the framework for Gov Guam and creating agencies like the Guam Economic Development Authority. Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz was off island during the hearing, but he provided written testimony in opposition to the building's demolition because of its historical significance. Two of Governor Guerrero's children, Alfredo D. Leon Guerrero and Evelina Leon Guerrero Bonner, testified that they weren't necessarily in opposition to the building's demolition as long as their father's name was put on a new building at the same site. However, Respicio says in his release that the only clear consensus of the public hearing is that in its present condition, the building does little to honor former Governor Guerrero. Senator Respicio has asked GITA, Public Works, the Hagåtña Redevelopment and Restoration Authority, and other government agencies to return with more information when the hearing continues on March the 17th.
All right, now we go to Blake Watson for more in sports.
Are you sure it's Blake Watson? Or I could have swore it was the Hamburglar.
Sports is what I'm here to tell you about, so be sure to stick around for sports, basketball and baseball. We got sports, and apparently they got jokes. It was a good one. You got me.